Meeting to order. I want to welcome our Planning Commission. Thank you for attending tonight, and so we can expedite this, we will be moving the item that you're here to watch to the front of the agenda once we get through the consent agenda. So again, thank you for being here. Again, I call this meeting to order. I would like for you to stand, and Mr. Sullivan, could you come down and offer the invocation? And Mr. Reed, could you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Would you bow with me, please? Loving Heavenly Father, we give you glory and the honor for this day and the beauty of it. Father, we're blessed in this community. We're blessed in this great state and this great nation, and we give you glory and honor for that as well. Father, we thank you for these men and women who are serving tonight in this capacity on this council. Father, I'd ask that your wisdom and your discernment be upon them tonight in their decisions that they have before them. And Father, give them peace about their decisions as well, and that they be for the good of the whole. We thank you so much for this great nation and the men and women who are sacrificing, their families who are sacrificing, who are ensuring our freedoms in this great country as we speak tonight. Father, just give them a blessing of comfort and peace and protection. Father, bring them home soon. And reunite them with their families as soon as possible, Lord. Thank you so much for the ultimate example of service and sacrifice that we have through your Son Jesus and his humble death on the cross for us and the blood that was shed. And we ask all of this in your Son's holy name. Amen.
Please join me in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, on community-related announcements, I want to remind everybody that we've got a little party going on the 4th of July in Joe B. Barnes Park called Tribute to Liberty. It gets bigger and better every year. I want you to invite you to come out and join us in that. Mr. Sullivan, you have any additional announcements on Tribute?
No, sir. Just join us on the 4th. Going to be a fun time. First band goes on at 6, and then Dr. Irv Wagner comes on about 8:30, 8:45. Fireworks 9:45. It'll be fun. Fun will be had by all.
Thank you. Any other community announcements on the Horseshoe? Yes, ma'am.
July 6th is First Friday at Charles Johnson Park for concert, movie, bringing families out. Also, the Junior Golf League Skills Service starts up July 11th. And I believe that they still have space for juniors. So if you know of anybody who would be interested, it's going to go once a week for several weeks. Great program, great opportunity. Please think about signing up. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Anybody else?
We are in the process of changing some of our routes, particularly in the area between Reno and 15th Street, Douglas to Post. That square mile will be moved from a Friday pickup to a Monday pickup starting July 1st. And we are providing notice. We've provided one, and we'll be providing a second notice to all of those that are being affected by this change. And then I think we're also going to have a call out too, right, Mr. Sullivan? So look for those cards, those notices in your on your polycart, and the change again will go into place July 1st.
I'd like to add to that, Mr. City Manager. We've already had a couple questions about this, mostly from my neighbors. If you're picked up on Friday, this Friday, you will be picked up again on Monday. So those who are on that Friday route this Friday that are moving to Monday, you kind of get a little bonus there. So fill your can up over the weekend, you'll get it picked up again on Monday. No extra charge, Mr. Councilman. No extra charge.
Any further announcements? That being said, we'll move into our consent agenda. These items are placed on the consent agenda so the council, by unanimous consent, can approve routine agenda items by one motion. If any item proposed does not meet with the approval of the council, or members of the audience wish to discuss an item be removed and heard in regular order, I've had a request to remove items 29, 30, and 31 by Councilwoman Eads. With that being said, Chair would entertain a motion.
Motion to approve the remainder of the consent agenda with the exception of items 29, 30, and 31.
I have a motion. Do I have a
Second.
A motion is second. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Councilwoman Eads, go ahead.
Yes, I just wanted to be recognized that consent agenda number 29 addresses the gracious services from Midwest Veterinarian Hospital in conjunction with our Adopt-A-Pet program for 2018-2019. It also contemplates services of, on item number 30, with Oklahoma Humane Society, who are electing to offer free services to animals adopted from the Midwest City Animal Shelter in conjunction with the Adopt-A-Pet program. And number 31, the services of Pet Vet Animal Clinic, who's electing to offer free services to animals adopted from the Midwest City Animal Shelter in conjunction with the Adopt-A-Pet program. And I wanted to just comment that I certainly appreciate the community partnership that these businesses are choosing to endeavor with and to help us to find homes for pets that find their way to our animal shelter. So I wanted to thank them and acknowledge them. And with that, I would move to approve those 3 agenda items.
Thank you for recognizing that, Ms. Eads. The chair does have a motion. A second?
Can we approve them all together, or we have to do them separate?
I think we can move to approve them all, 29, 30, and 31.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on these items? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries. Ladies and gentlemen, we are going to deviate from normal order of business this evening and move from discussion item 1 to discussion item 12, and with a presentation by HRA and Associates. So if you're a representative from that company could come down and you have the floor, ma'am.
Yeah, and Stan wants to call them.
Can I just stand here and present
Hold
to
on
you,
just a minute,
or-
ma'am. Stan, go ahead and call the planning commission to order.
Mr. Mayor, the Planning Commission of Midwest City is called to order with a quick roll call. Commissioner Smith? Russell? Commissioner Husky? Commissioner Campbell? Commissioner Smith? Jim? Commissioner Grile? Here. Commissioner Hinton? Here. Commissioner Collins? Here. Mr. Mayor, we have a quorum.
Thank you, sir. Go ahead, ma'am.
If I may, can I say a few words to recognize a couple of
Yes,
people?
sir.
Mr. Mayor. First of all, I'd like to recognize Stan Grile, the Planning Commission Chairman, for bringing this project to staff with the enthusiasm. He saw this at one of the Planning Commission workshops, Planning Commission APA conferences, I should say, on his visit to one of those, and brought it back to staff and said, hey, this is a good idea. I'm not sure what an innovation district is, but it has a lot of synergy to it, and maybe it could help with the area there off of I-40 sooner, which is anchored by TBIP, the Hospitality District, Rose, and convinced us that we needed to move forward with this. We received a hospital grant to do that. Staff wrote a hospital grant to do that, and a selection committee was put together and selected HR&A. They are known around the country for doing innovation districts and have a very well thought of reputation. Some other people that have been involved in this, Julie Shannon, our comprehensive planner, has taken a lot of steps to make all the meetings happen, all the meetings with the stakeholders, which included obviously you, Mayor, the city manager, Mr. Henson, but Dr. Jeannie Webb from Rose State, of course Stan, Bonnie Cheatwood with the chamber, Mr. Croak from the bank, and then it goes on representatives from TBIP and the Sheridan and people from the base. So anyway, I'd just like to recognize those people, and I'm very excited about the product that we have. I think it could potentially be the next big idea for the city.
Thank you, Mr. Harless. Ma'am, go ahead.
Thank you. What's the best way for me to move through the slides? Just tell you next? Okay. No, that's fine. Yeah. Thank you. And thank you all for coming. My name is Jamie Kim, and I'm from HRNA. I have met many of you in some of our early planning discussions, so it's great to see you again. I am joined by my colleague Peter Gorman, sitting over there, who has done really a lot of this legwork. Bob Jolis, the partner on this project, who many of you have also met. He has been grounded in Chicago and unfortunately has no way to get out of the city. So he really regrets not being able to join you all tonight. He did want me to share his sort of, recognition and admiration for the Midwest City taking on this project. It is really important. It is a buzzword that lots of cities and folks have been talking about. So I'm really happy to walk through the work we've been doing over the past many months with a lot of your feedback. And I don't know what the best format is if folks want to, well, we have a discussion after the presentation. I'll try to keep it short. I know you have a long agenda. So as Billy mentioned, we are a firm that specializes in real estate and economic development. We work across the country. In fact, we are working in Oklahoma City for their Innovation District Plan right now. So we do a lot of Innovation District Planning. I'm going to tell you a little bit about what that is in a minute. So we started in January. We had a lot of stakeholder conversations. We looked at all your plans and documents. And then we really spent the first quarter doing an economic and physical conditions assessment. So we conducted a market study to understand what are market supportable uses for residential, for retail, for office. We looked at the physical conditions of the district, and we have some recommendations. And we're back to you today to present a framework for how you can start to take the steps to take this plan and bring it into action. So just as a backdrop, I know lots of folks are saying, well, what is an innovation district? You know, it's a foreign concept. It's being talked a lot from planners and economic development experts. These are really places that emerge from the traditional old, I'd say 1950s, 1960s research campus. So Bob Jolis, my partner, ran Research Triangle Park, which is one of the sort of well-known campuses. These are buildings that supported sort of high-tech companies. They worked in isolation. The scientists, the researchers, they all sort of worked in their pods. They left at 5, and there was nothing else. The way things have been changing, it's all about a dynamic place where scientists, where creative types are bumping into each other, where these places are able to foster increased, accelerated economic development by taking startup firms, making them bigger, really using the opportunity of collaboration and convergence of different technologies to grow your ecosystem. And really it's focused, and I can walk through some of the next steps. So we were excited when we saw the RFP, and we want to just re-articulate Midwest City's goals for this district. It's to enhance the city's image. We want to create a vibrant destination and really foster a workforce for both TBIP and the Air Force Base. It's really about growing your economic ecosystem, growing your existing businesses, but also attracting others. And that's really about bolstering your city's economic development, and then really engaging in partnerships that will expand your existing relationships and existing businesses and create new technology-based programs. So the Innovation District is place-based. We want to show you where it sits next to the original Mile District, just to the west. We see it's anchored by Rose State College. What we're seeing across the country is that these districts need to have an academic or institutional anchor. So Rose State is a very important part. I want to recognize that TBIP is another anchor sort of in the southwest corner. And then another thing that has emerged since we started our work is the exciting entertainment district that's coming online to the north. So one of our first assignments was trying to identify where this innovation district area would be located within this bigger box. And we identified, with a lot of feedback from the stakeholders, in sort of small area shown by those arrows between the hospitality district and Rose State, based on the physical conditions, based on the proximity to the adjacent institutions, and knowing that TBIP, although it's separated by I-40, is an integral part of that district. We also wanted to overlay this map to recognize there are some barriers, so including, in addition to the highway, we have the APZ zones, and, this is just sort of the physical assessment diagram. We also conducted a market study, and I think we circulated that. It's a very long attachment. But the results of the market study is promising in terms of residential, and I think what we're seeing is increased residential development, especially multifamily, more activity happening in Midwest City, but also some of that activity is really being driven by what's happening in downtown, right? So that's sort of trickling over. Retail, retail as an industry phenomena, or in the nation has its challenges, so we want to be very careful that we're not over-retailed. But retail is very important to support the new workers and the new residents living in this district. We were more cautious about office and hotel. We think there's a lot already in the supply and more to come, so we didn't want to flood the district with more uses, at least in the near term. We want whatever comes online to be really successful. So we also did an industry sector analysis, and we looked at a number of industries that currently exist that had the potential to grow within this district. And so if you look at the opportunity, it's the grading we provide at the medium to low is not to suggest that you're in any way floundering. In fact, some of the grants you're receiving and the growth you're achieving in these sectors are very impressive. But the point of the district is to take an industry or sector that still has the opportunity and potential to grow and to figure out how we can even push those boundaries. So we looked at aerospace, additive manufacturing, and cybersecurity as key industries, and obviously these are industries that are being really supported by Rose State, by TBIP. And then we looked at a couple of development models, a lower density model and a higher density model. And the arrow to the left shows what you could do in the short term. So less risk, more immediate market support, and then what you could do in the longer term. So obviously there is a growing demand for residential. We know that housing is a key concern, and we heard a lot about the need for quality housing across different price points. So we see a new product in the 100 to 150 unit range being a no-brainer in this area. Some supportive retail, 2,000 to 3,000 square feet to support those new residents. And then in the future, potentially adding some office space, especially if you have a tenant that's willing to move in. There's really no developers out there who are going to build to speculative development. And then finally, hotel in the near term is not a realistic option, but perhaps as we see the district begin to expand and thrive, we could support more hotel uses. So again, this is a mapping of where we see the different types of uses. Really, innovation districts are live, work, play communities. So the live is very important. You need more residential and population density in that district. So we see the opportunity for growing that development. Some retail and office near Rose State. And then one of the sort of characteristic features of an innovation district is a convergence center, or a place where companies, where creative people, where talent can converge and meet and create new ideas, new products. And so we are going to talk about that in a bit. So I wish Bob was here, because I don't think I can do his vision statement justice. And this is just our stab at the statement. But it's very important that you start with a statement or a vision for the district. And we'd like you to just consider this and tear it apart, but work on this vision as a committee, as a set of stakeholders, and make it your own to drive the future of the district. So the statement is as follows: the Midwest City Innovation District will embrace the bold, entrepreneurial, and visionary legacy of America's City of Tomorrow. It will serve as an economic engine promoting job growth through partnership and innovation, anchored by an open and engaged convergence center. The district will be a place for living and learning. This new community of collaboration will bring together friends and families, students and teachers, innovators and creators. The Midwest City Innovation District will enlighten a whole new generation of Oklahomans with a drive to discover and a desire to push their imagination and creativity. So the other aspect of this district is more than the plan. How do we begin to look forward to implementation? And so governance is a key aspect. You go from the vision and the plan. I'm going to talk a little bit about what this Phase 1 Convergence Center is. And then the core of this is creating the partnerships that will work together to create this convergence center, but also to foster additional private development in this area. So a convergence center is, I would say at the very basic concept, the Phase 1 concept, it's a space where people can have a cup of coffee, where people can meet to have a discussion. This is a space at the Frontier at Research Triangle Park. Actually, Bob Jolis was responsible for creating this space. It ultimately became it was a building that was in disuse, that using some minimal repairs and some IKEA furniture, Bob opened it up, and before he knew it, people came in with their laptops. They rented the space. They came in to have meetings. They had extensive programming. And I know Rose State has the Innovation Station in Oklahoma City, which is exciting. And if you look at that space, there's a lot of commonalities to that. What we're proposing is a Phase 1 concept, which I can describe in further detail. But really in the first, so I leave, and in the first 1 to 8 months, should move ahead and identify a site for this convergence center. It should be a place where we've heard a lot of folks say, well, there's no place to, meet someone after work or to have a drink or grab a bite. It's not just a social space, because it's those social venues that also foster the entrepreneurial spirit and activity. So we got very excited when we saw the arts building. I think many of you folks know where that is, because it is a perfect location. We don't want to have a multi-million-dollar project, right? This is not what you want to do, is spend a ton of cash. But what you want to have is a modest-sized space, and have that space created with a partnership structure. And the partnership and the space has to have more than just the desks for people coming in with their laptops, or coming in with looking for a cup of coffee. It needs to have the programming. So if the programming is being run by a really creative type, a young person who sees the opportunity to expand Rose State's drone education program in a fun way, to also have guest speaker series, maybe to have entertainment options, this starts to drive a buzz. But that buzz also needs to be driven by marketing, and to get folks aware that this is really where things are starting to happen. And this is why when we heard that there were ideas for this space to support a pub or a brewery, we said this is perfect, because we believe the space is large enough to accommodate both uses. And then finally, there should be some planning and design for the area around that convergence center, that building. So when you walk to that place or bike or drive your car, you know it's a special place. You know it's sort of a place that is near the hospitality district, near the college, and not far away the entertainment district. And then in the subsequent months, we recommend that space fit out happens. Again, we recommend doing all of this in a short time frame, ideally within a year if possible, just to keep the momentum going. The fit out should be done at minimal cost using local contractors. Got to get a little creative. But the building, the bones of the building are there. It's sort of a perfect shell. And these spaces don't require a lot of bells and whistles. And then in the subsequent years, the programming for the space can expand. You can tie in activities that bridge what's happening over at the Community Learning Center, over at the Reed Conference Center. Again, bringing in the programs that are happening at the college, at TBIP, so that it really becomes an exciting place that's consistently programmed. There's always something going on. And then if we look ahead, and we want to get really aspirational, there's a model for this across the country, but this is not where you want to sink all your resources immediately. You can create a place where you can support advanced manufacturing by having high-tech machinery come in. There are lots of models where you can have a membership-based program so that it really becomes a space for people to test out new ideas, test out new products. But this is sort of the longer-term vision, and we want it to be realistic. Let's figure out what we want to do in the first 1 or 2 years. And again, this is a concept that we've taken from an actual convergence space. So again, this is a permanent space, which would include co-working, community space, the hardware space for advanced manufacturing machinery, and of course, food and beverage. You have to have your coffee and or beer. We've also looked at how convergence centers can be run. There's lots of different ways, and again, this is going to be determined by the key partners that are involved. You can have a nonprofit that either owns or leases the space. You know, there's pros and cons to this, and we can talk about this in further detail as the process evolves. So just to recap, in the first couple years, we should really identify the site. Ideally, it is that site, it is that building. It's a perfect location in terms of its proximity to anchors, in terms of its ownership, but also we need to, or the city needs to engage in a process where it creates a partnership and with partners, you know, including Rose State and others, to establish a long-term leadership for the Convergence Center and to enable this vision to evolve and grow in future years. We should have a architect or design partner available, and then there's a marketing plan, a marketing strategy that's very important to making this successful. And then finally, because we specialize in real estate, we wanted to look at how do you facilitate private development? How do you keep this momentum going? So regulation, and we looked at zoning. If we look at this area, we should, we recommended that, the existing hospitality zoning is not very conducive to mixed-use development. So to change that, to modify it to allow residential as of right, to add design guidelines so that once you have the entertainment district in place, all those buildings aren't just facing towards that new Warren Theater compound, but also facing back into the district so that we're not sort of the back door. So that's important. In terms of placemaking and infrastructure, we know the city has made a lot of really great progress in this front, and we just want to emphasize that all of these innovation districts are walkable, bikeable districts, and we would recommend that a lot of focus be placed in this area to promote those types of modes. In terms of facilitating development, we know that there are some apartment buildings built in that district that are, you know, in a bit of disrepair. We would recommend that the city consider clearing sites and reselling to private developers who may share a vision for a district that, you know, supports, you know, a broader, better quality housing product that can bring in new populations, but also provide housing for existing folks who want to stay in Midwest City. And then finally, in terms of governance and operations, again, this is our proposal based on what we've seen in other places to establish a steering committee and to really be able to check off these tasks, to keep parties accountable, and that there is a startup team, that there is it's not just about money, but that there is a commitment of time, of resources to see this project through. So we think this governance structure is very important to really going past the planning framework. So our recommendations are, as I mentioned, you know, creating that phase 1 convergence center. It is a low-hanging fruit. It's very exciting, and we hope that you can take advantage of a unique space that is currently potentially available. And building off the momentum and success of that convergence center to begin considering a permanent convergence space, to continue to support private development activities. So we know there's a residential market. Are there incentives and subsidies that could be provided? Is there other outreach that can be done to developers to let them know that there is investment happening in this area? And then to secure the buy-in from your partners. Obviously, the city is going to be the critical piece, but Rose State, TBIP, and others, and really to establish this governance strategy and to begin to execute on this plan. So that is our presentation, my presentation. I'm happy to discuss any questions or thoughts.
Any questions? Well, fortunately, we already own the building that they're talking about. And we'll be moving forward and occupying that building once the leaseor vacates, and starting at that point. And we've already got, I do want to take a minute to recognize 2 guests in our audience, Dr. Jeannie Webb from Rose State and Cindy Mikeman, also from Rose State. Thank you for being here and watching this presentation. We've already got the cooperation between Tinker, Rose State. We've got the very basic building blocks of this whole thing to put it together, so we've got a roadmap. We just need to push through and start it.
Councilman, I would say that at this point, we're under a lease with the school district for another year for the arts place, but it's my understanding that their plan is to be out of there after this next year. It's part of their all of their bond issue package to create some space so that they're not renting from us. So I think we could be looking at that type of horizon to create this convergence center.
And I'd also like to add that, if I didn't mention it before, special thanks to Councilwoman Eads for especially bending her schedule to meet with us and stuff. I know that she was very busy during the time that the consultants were in town. But I'd also ask that you know, we always need funding to move forward if we to do some of the plan and implementation phase of this. To keep that in mind, it'll be important as well.
Well, I just wanted to raise this point really quickly. one thing about where the arts building is and talking about, you know, also making it close to somewhere where it's a pub or a coffee shop or et cetera. It's kind of convenient that the Sheraton has those facilities and that immediate proximity type of thing. So it is really a symbiotic situation that for us to deal with the creation of the center and in the proximity where it's at to use the arts building. So, and I know a number of people have approached me about excitement about this innovation district. So,
Well, thank you so much for being here and in your presentation and your work on this project. And it's up to us to carry this purse forward, so to speak. And I think there's a lot of excitement about it. And again, redevelopment of that area that needs to be redeveloped and convergent with our entertainment district and our college and everything else that's going on down there. So it's up to us. Thank you so
Mayor.
much.
Well, it was a real pleasure working with all of you. I have a really fond spot in my heart for Midwest City, and I would love to, you know, I will be back because of Oklahoma City, but, you know, we're here to help if, you know, you have a question or, you know, you need some ideas for next steps.
So if we
really-
move forward at the next Oklahoma City council meeting, you need to say, I'll be back because of Midwest City.
Exactly.
And you will be paying us a lot more attention than you are them.
It's not a competition, very different place.
Thank you so
Okay,
much.
thank
We
you.
appreciate it. With that being said, we will return to our normal order of business, and if you'll
Adjourn.
allow me to move through, I will take care of that, Mr. Reed. Stan, you need to go ahead and adjourn your commission.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Do I have a motion for adjournment? And a second? All in favor, stand up. We are adjourned, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Gryle and the Planning Commission for being here. We appreciate it.
A separate one?
Yeah, I think that would be good, a motion to accept the report.
I'll make a motion to accept the report.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Again, thanks. I'm sorry? There is no summer uniform. Well, that being said, we will return to normal order of business and with discussion item 1 on City Council agenda.
This is PC 1946, discussion consideration of approval of the proposed preliminary plat of Oaks Crossing described as part of the southwest quarter of Section 31, Township 12 North, Range 1 West, addressed as 10225 East Reno Avenue. Mr. Harless?
Only one thing to add from the conversation that we had previously at staff briefing. It's my understanding that staff has talked with the applicants, and they would be willing to consider shared drives for the property if that is the wish of the council. They're certainly here to answer any questions on that. If that's a big concern.
What's the wishes of the council?
Like I said earlier, some inconsistencies is more what I was talking, but I think at this point, if whatever the developer wants to do, it's if the ordinance states he can do what he's wanting to do, then I think it'll be allowed to do that. Not to be pushed into something, I'd leave it up to him. I mean, it's. You know, I think we had some discussion upstairs about looking at the ordinances that need to be changed. And, you know, I had a discussion, Kelly, about there's some things that I think we need to, if we're gonna develop future homes in Midwest City, we need to be able to give these developers and home builders the ability to build these future homes. And I think we may be just a little bit behind the curve in doing that, and I'm understanding there's some stuff we're gonna see pretty soon to give these people a little bit more latitude to live in the HGTV world. Because let's face it, that's what we're all living in. And not to say we're doing anything wrong, but if we want quality stuff, quality homes by quality builders, we're gonna have to be willing to make those changes so that we don't have to hear how bad variances every time they get brought up.
Absolutely. That being said, Chair, entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve.
I second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on this item? Hearing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention, motion carries. Next item.
PC 1951, public hearing with discussion consideration of an ordinance to redistrict from R6 single-family residential to SPUD simplified plan unit development governed by the O2 General Office District for the property described as Lot 7 of the Tribe Second Edition located at 2608 South Post Road. Mr. Harless?
Yes, Mr. Henson. Staff doesn't have any additional comments at this time, and unless there's any questions from previous presentation.
And again, this is consistent with the ongoing development on Long Post Road and office and in the medical space, correct?
Yes, sir.
And we're having to get a variance for footage on the front, right?
Yes, they are requesting a variance from the 100-foot minimum requirement. That's why they're doing the SPUD. They're requesting a variance of 79 foot of frontage. But they are doing a shared drive to service both lots as when that comes forward for the plat.
And Mr. Harless, the reason they're needing this variance is because the existing lot is 79 foot wide?
No, they're wanting to split it. The
Okay.
existing lot is
Okay,
159 feet.
okay.
It's
Sorry.
159 feet wide.
Okay.
And they're just wanting to maximize the amount of development on the front.
Any further discussion? Chair to entertain a motion.
I move to approve.
I have a motion.
Second.
I have a second. Any further discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Get me.
Abstentions. The record shows one opposition. Next discussion item.
PC 1952, public hearing with discussion and consideration of approval of the Sooner Rose 3 Edition final plat for the property described as a tract of land lying in the southwest quarter of Section 4, Township 11 North, Range 2 west of the Indian Meridian, located along Southeast 15th Street between Buena Vista Avenue and Crosby Boulevard, Midwest City, Oklahoma.
Thank you, Mr. Henson. Yes, this is the final plat. It's very similar to the preliminary plat. It meets all the city's requirements. So staff and planning commission recommend approval.
Move to approve.
I have a motion. Do I have any further discussion? I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention, motion carries. Next item.
This is PC 1953, public hearing with discussion consideration of approval of an ordinance to redistrict from RMH2 Manufactured Home Park District to Plan Unit Development governed by the RMD Medium Density Residential District and a resolution to amend the comprehensive plan from MH Manufactured Home to MDR Medium Density Residential for the property described as a tract of land lying in the northwest quarter of Section 25, Township 12 North, Range 2 West, located at 2222 North Douglas Boulevard.
It's the wishes of the applicant to have this tabled, is that correct?
Yes, and he is here. Mr. Jones is here if you have any questions. He would like to have this table.
That being said, I would entertain a motion to table.
Move to approve.
Move to table.
I move to a table, excuse me. Move to a table to the 24th. July.
I have a motion and a second to table. Any Further discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion's tabled. Next item.
PC 1954, public hearing with discussion consideration of approval of the Soldier Creek Industrial Park final plat for the property described as a tract of land lying in the north half of Section 27, Township 12 North, Range 2 West, City of Midwest City, Oklahoma County, Oklahoma, located on the south side of Northeast 23rd Street, east of North Air Depot Boulevard.
Yes, as this meets all the requirements of the final plat, staff and planning commission recommend approval, and this creates lots available for development, so it's exciting.
That being said, any further discussion? Chair to entertain a motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries. Next item.
This is not PC 1955, public hearing with discussion consideration of a request to rename Forest Trail located within Forest Glen North, Section 2, Section 3 to Forest Terrace.
Be glad to answer any questions, just a housekeeping requirement.
Any discussion on this item?
Move to,
If none, motion.
move to approve name change.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries. Next item.
BC 1956, discussion and consideration of an ordinance amending Section 5 supplemental zoning regulations of the Midwest City Code by amending Section 5.13 infill housing exceptions to minimum house size and providing for repealer and severability and establishing an effective date.
This is in response to actually some of the comments earlier that that the Planning Commission and staff have brought to you to relax some of those requirements to get a diversity of housing, or infill housing in this case, but it provides some options for the builder to build below a 512 pitch or whatever they would like to build in these areas. Staff recommends approval.
Mr. Mayor, and I want to expound on what I said a little bit earlier. I think it's important that we do this as long as we're not weakening our codes, because, you know, we talk about living with the sins of others, and, you know, and without going into all those details, but we need to move forward, but we don't need to make it so that we're 10 years or 5 years from now, the people that are sitting up here are dealing with some of the same issues we are now with some of the, you know, the water problems.
Sure.
And so, I think that if you can tell, the most of us are for that, as long as the ordinances don't get weakened.
Right.
That we just strengthen them and make them to where we're moving into 2008, 19, 20, 21.
Yeah, and staff would agree with you on that, and most ordinances, and in this case, the pitch of the roof and the brick ordinance that's been stirred a lot of conversation recently, those were put in place as a response to people not putting an investment into their property or trying to bypass and get in metal buildings, or EFS, which is a material that just doesn't stand the test of time. And as technology changes, it's appropriate to change the and even in city planning, times change. Cul-de-sacs used to be the thing, and now connectivity to neighborhoods is the thing. So they change, and it's appropriate to look at them stuff, and we'll take you through that.
Did I understand, did I hear a roof pitch, you're wanting to go lower than a 512?
Actually, it eliminates the requirement. There is no, it would be back to open to the requirement.
So just, you're wanting to eliminate where there's
Eliminate it,
not
yes.
a requirement, and just be approved on a,
Just infill development.
and then what about the, when there's some questions on the siding also?
Yes, the Planning Commission is taking that under consideration as we speak. I think we have a proposal coming next July 3rd. We'll hear that, and that'll open it up to the concrete board. What was the official name of it? Cementitious Fiber Board.
Good Lord.
So that'll open that up. You know, there's and talk about technology and stuff changing and stuff, and we've had a couple of builders that would like to use metal shingles, that rustic metal shingle, and right now our ordinance prohibits that. And I think as time moves on, we're certainly open to doing that if we see a development pressure to do that.
I mean, if you look around the country and some of the nicest additions and cities being built, I know there's like Seaside Development in
Sure.
Destin, Florida, and probably even the one that Humphreys is doing at Eufaula. I mean, they're not putting brick on a lot of these houses. It's all you know, and those are areas where the climate, you have hurricane weather, and they're using that type of material. I don't think you have to have a brick. I think it's good to mix it up, but it's important to have a good product that'll withstand time. And the Keys, they're not putting brick. It's all the houses that's withstood the hurricane there. It's the concrete board that they're talking about. But if it's installed properly, weatherproofed, and so I think this is be a good change. It'll give us that flexibility and appearance that a lot of people are wanting right now.
It will be, and you'll hear a lot of debate in the future about, you know, we have to specify by the cut sheets and not by the manufacturer of what products are available, because the board, cementitious fiber board, is a very specific thing. And is that different than some of the other aluminum siding, for example, that is something that doesn't stand the test of time, and that we're trying to be resistant to. So anyway, there will be a lot of discussion about it, but kind of excited to see some of the products that come out of it.
Well, and this brings up the point that Mr. Moore was making upstairs, that when we enter into these discussions, that we bring reputable dealers and builders into the discussion to ensure that we're not degrading our overall product, but ensuring that we move forward with a good product and not taking away from what we have on board right now, I guess.
Yes, sir. Very well put.
With all that being said, any further discussion? Chair to entertain a motion.
Make a motion to pass. Approve.
I have a motion.
Second.
I have a second. Any further discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Next item.
This is a discussion consideration of a plat correction for the plat of St. Charles Place for the omission of the word street from the owner's certificate and dedication block on the submittal and filed plat.
Any discussion necessary on this? If none, Chair to entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Next item.
This is an ordinance amending Article 3, Section 9, Building Code of the Midwest City Code by amending Section 1120.0 permit fees and providing for repeal or inseverability and establishing an effective date. Mr. Arliss?
And this is another example of trying to be reactive to some of the development ideas in the original mile. The city in the past has been very resistant to waiving fees for anything, and one of the things that we're hearing from builders and developers through this pilot program is, look, you own the lots, the city owns the lots, and then you're turning around and charges a building permit to build on lots that you own, whether it's a fence or building permit. Well, this gives the city manager or his designee to an opportunity to waive those fees on property that's for redevelopment that the city owns. So anyway, staff has certainly recommends approval.
My only comment, which, you know, time will tell, but I'm afraid on some of this there's going to end up being appraisal problems if there's so much thrown in.
So much.
Subsidy.
Sorry?
Subsidy.
Yeah, if you have so much subsidy and between the lot and all the stuff that they're doing, and I mean, and I don't think this little bit more is gonna probably make that big of a difference, but these houses will only sell for so much per square foot. And if they don't sell for what it should cost, what the market should bring, and it sells for less, then that's gonna set the comp And so there will be 5 outstanding houses, but a guy says, oh, one just like that for the same price. You know, and that could be a problem, but, you know, we'll see. I kind of feel like it will be one, hopefully it's not. But the more we keep throwing in, the less the builder will be able to sell it for at a break even or a small profit, and that's gonna hurt us in the end, if that makes any sense.
How much for a house are we waiving the fees? How much is that, you think?
On this one? On
Just roughly.
Well, it's based upon the size of the home.
Yeah, it's on
and
the size of the home and the number of fixtures and things like that.
Typical building permit in infill, lots, smaller lots would be less than $1,500.
So it's not a substantial amount.
Is it?
The lot, since they are based on the house size and the cost to build the house, I do think it'd probably be less than 1,500. That's a good price for a new home in one of our newer, bigger subdivisions. I have a clarification question, Jeff. So I'm not understanding, because I guess in my mind, not having the expense of paying for a building permit would be beneficial to the developer, but in your analogy, it's not, because then there's less that you can demand on the price for it. I mean, isn't it still square feet times price, and then you get a number, and you?
Well,
I
let's
mean,
say that these, what's the size of these homes? 1,400 feet?
Right.
Right, that's the range.
Okay, and then the city's throwing in the lot, so add up everything the city's gonna throw in, and then say it cost, in reality, even though they're throwing it in, it cost the builder, I don't know, what's the projection, Billy, $90 a foot?
I don't recall, that's probably pretty close. I don't
So
recall
call it
the-
100. So is it 100 a foot plus, that's not including he had a $40,000, $30,000 gift.
What's the
Okay.
$40,000 gift?
I'm sorry?
The lot?
The lot.
The lot,
That you move in the utilities, some landscaping, driveway. So if all that adds up to 30 to 40,000, and his cost is 100, if it's 1,400 feet, that's 140,000. And then hopefully, if the city gifted 30, we need to make sure that those sell for that full amount, because the next round, those houses are gonna cost even more. But if you just sold these 5 houses at $100 a foot or 110, but in reality, it's gonna cost 160. You see, it's not, it's, right, right. So if you're not careful, then those comps create a problem. See, the last thing we wanna do as a developer, if I started a new development, the last thing I wanna do is to sell the lots really cheap. Then the next round, they're saying, the appraisers are going, sorry, we can't loan. We already have a problem with that out here in Midwest City. That, you know, a lot of times we have a ready, willing, and able buyer, but we can't get the appraisal up high enough of what our actual cost was. And so I think that this could trigger some comp problems.
well, the lots in this case, in the original mile, the city received them for free. And I think we've had 3 building permits over there in the last 10 years. In the last 10 years, there are a number of lots over there that you could buy, at least a year ago, for $10,000, and nobody's buying them. This program that we're talking about, this pilot program, is an effort to try to encourage investment into this area, and through the Original Mile Investment Committee and a number of discussions about, okay, how do we create an atmosphere for people to build a house in this area? How do we do that? Well, we have some lots. Let's throw out proposals, get a request for proposals from developers to see, or builders, to see what they come back with, to see what what will they charge or what will they do to build on this lot? So, because we have lots that are free, and they gave it. We had 2 applicants, and we weighed the proposals, and the committee looked at them and selected them. That came through the council, and it has been approved. But yes, part of that is giving away the free lot, and the idea is that that these houses will encourage further development and increase property values and help out the city all the way around. We know that some other people have already been buying up lots in that area because the city is making an investment down there. Now, we're just trying to help the builder out with some of their issues. If this is successful, we have some other lots, and we would like to open it up and do some more, and build some more homes, because we think that would be a good thing. Yes, that's the intent. But it's intended that's the purpose, is to use it in the original mile.
And Billy, don't get me wrong, I think you have to do something to encourage and create some demand and interest over there, but I'm just saying that we might need to figure out a way to eliminate that future comp and appraisal problem with some patience, or have a plan. Because if they end up not selling like you think, and he sells them at cost, then I think you defeated the purpose. You could have 5 nice houses that's overbuilt, but if we could figure out a way to be patient and help wait for that comp to naturally happen take the total value that we gifted plus the cost is where it needs to sell, or that could be a problem, is all I'm saying. But I think it's a good plan.
The items that are being gifted are things that the city basically has. Do they cost the city something to go out and hook up the utilities? Yes, but we're not buying much. We're buying some fittings and things to do that.
Well, it's not the fees that are going to issue or develop the comp issue. Actually, the $40,000 lot's going to develop the appraisal issue. If that's what I'm hearing.
Yeah,
not so much a $1,600 permit, but
all of it together.
All of it together.
If I remember right, there's some help with the drive. There's some landscaping, moving some utilities.
Yes,
whatever
there
the
are.
next guy is going to have to do, if the natural price of the lot's going to be, if it ends up being 10 or 15,000, and the city's helped, whether it's 5,000 or 10,000, I think we need to take that value in consideration and help it, and hope, or be patient, however you can do it, to help get the price up where it includes all of that.
We hope that this program is successful, this pilot program is successful on this, and people start building down there, and we'll just step out of the way and
Let it happen.
get it going.
That being said, any further discussion? Okay, I have a motion.
Second.
I have a second. Any further discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Next item.
This is discussion consideration of a request to fund the construction of a water line extension from Westminster Road to Southeast 28th Street along Rofan Road and Hand Road. This was originally presented to the council on November 14th, 2017, continued to January 23rd, 2018, and again continued on March 27th, 2018. Patrick, you want to give us a report?
Yes, sir. Just briefly, staff was tasked to ask the residents along that corridor if they would commit a $75 deposit to a water meter. So when and if the city extended service down through that area, they would be obligated to commit and hook onto the water line and become part of the city infrastructure.
And the residents have complied with
Yes,
all of
sir.
our requests?
The minimum threshold was set, if you recall at the meeting, to have at least 50% of the residents commit to the program and come and make their deposit, and that has happened. We've had 22 of the 31 residents on the corridor come in and deposit their $75.
That being said, I think the council needs to follow through with our commitment, so the chair would entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
I'd like to pay a compliment to Patrick and Brandon for they were coming up here. I guess we were coming up here and having meetings during a snowstorm, trying to educate the property owners, and then having other meetings and sending out notices and clarifying things. They were very patient and getting this done. So I was recognized for that.
Absolutely, and thank you for all your hard work on that. I do have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries. Next item.
And Mayor, what we will do is to bring forward at the next meeting a recommendation as to the pursuing the funding, where the funding for the project will come. Okay. Next item is discussion consideration of approving a 2% cost of living increase effective July 1, 2018 for all employees not covered by a collective bargaining agreement.
Any discussion on this current item? Ms. Eads? We're on discussion item 11, the 2% increase for non-collective bargaining employees.
I have a, if you will, a conflicted view on this item. I want to say I have respect and admiration for all of our employees citywide, and I do recognize that a cost of living increase to any of our employees is a benefit, and I do understand that there is appreciation from our non-union folks for this proposed 2% cost of living increase. I would say that I am supportive of the 2% cost of living increase for the non-union employees, but with the caveat that I would like to see the 2% be equally offered, and for this council to be committed to equally offering that same 2% cost of living increase to all employees, police, fire, and our non-union city employees. So that would be my request. And again, I'm just one vote, but I just feel like if we're, we seem to have worked historically as a city to try to keep things as level and even as we can. And, we've had a lot of negotiations concerning where we're at with the numbers, where we're at with the budget. The sales tax increase is something that we don't have a long history of numbers on. The economy's always got a question mark in it, but I would just ask that if it's the wishes of this council to move forward on this one, that we do in like for police and fire also and put that number on the table.
I agree with what she said, but we can't make any motion for police and fire
Right.
in this.
It really, the negotiations for the IAFF and the FOP need to be handled through the negotiation process, and so we understand, we hear you, but I don't think that this is the time or place to put that on the table, so to speak.
And I guess I understand.
Right, and this is we're.
I guess, can I ask a follow-up question, just really quickly to clarify, in fairness? It's my understanding that wherever we get to with regard to our other employees, that we could go back and do a retro modification to this number if we so chose to do so. Is that
That would be,
correct?
that would be correct.
Okay, and there's no specific time limit, like it has to be done within 30 days or et cetera? I mean, within this fiscal year, we could go back.
That's, yes,
Is
ma'am.
that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Okay, that being
So-
said, any further discussion on
Yeah.
this item?
So is that feasible since it is a collective bargaining agreed, it is union that we start implementing what?
This isn't about the union.
No, this isn't
This
about
is
the
not
I
about the
know, but
union
I'm
anyway,
just
shape, or form.
saying, this is for non-union employees.
non-union employees.
And I'm saying that how can we, or can we start implementing now what we want for the union employees?
We're not.
The
Because you were just saying that we
negotiations
go-
haven't completed with
Right.
with either of the bargaining agents. This
She
is
didn't
just for
make
the
a motion.
non-union
But,
employees.
yeah. If
She just
was-
expressed her wishes.
Oh, to radioactive, okay, I
So,
thought you was making a motion
This
that we.
motion
okay.
is just going to
Okay.
be about, I'm gonna make a motion to accept the 2%
I-
cost of living adjustment for
okay,
non-union employees.
I agree, we make the motion.
I second.
I second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any further
I
discussion?
know she's feeling so drunk.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries. Ladies and gentlemen, we move into our new business public discussion of our agenda. Does anyone have anything
Nope.
to,
We got,
No.
we got 13.
I'll
I'll read it.
Go ahead. Discussion item 13.
This is an addendum, discussion, consideration of approving a project agreement by and between the Midwest City Memorial Hospital Authority and the City of Midwest City regarding Midwest City Memorial Hospital Authority tax apportionment refunding bonds taxable series 2018. Sooner Rose Increment District Project, hereinafter referred to as taxable series 2018 bonds. We are asking you to reaffirm an action that the council took in a joint meeting, which we have since been advised by our bond counsel that it should have occurred within as separate as part of a separate meeting for the hospital authority and for the city. So this is the project agreement has not changed from when you approved it in May.
Sorry for my oversight. So the chair would entertain a motion to approve this discussion item. Have a motion? I'm sorry?
Christine and I both seconded at the same time.
Are you guys just trying to drive me crazy? Okay, I have a motion in 2 seconds. So, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we move into the public discussion, new business of our agenda. Does anyone have anything to bring before the council? Keep in mind that if not an agenda item, we cannot engage in a discussion on the item. Yes, sir, Mr. Stroh.
I just wanted to thank the mayor and council, city managers, and all the police officers that attended our association celebration that we had on the 14th. It was a really good event. We had over 100 people show up from the neighborhood. So to you all that were able to make it, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Stroh.
Thank you for all the work associated with putting the event on.
That being said, any further discussion or anything to bring before the council? We do have 3 items on the executive sessions.
And I believe we're going to read each one and go into executive session and then do all 3 at the same time. Now, unless you want to do them later. Okay.
We can recess from regular council and move into the. Is that the wishes of the council? Okay, I need a motion to recess from council agenda.
Second.
A motion and a second. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention. Now I call to order the Midwest City Municipal Authority. We do have a consent agenda. These items are placed on the consent agenda so that trustees by unanimous consent can approve routine agenda items by one motion. If any item proposed does not meet with approval of all trustees or members of the audience who wish to discuss an item, be removed and heard in regular order.
Move to approve consent agenda.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions. Ladies and gentlemen, we move into the new business public discussion of the municipal authority. Does anyone have anything to bring before the municipal authority? Hearing none, we are hereby adjourned. I now call to order the Midwest City Memorial Hospital Authority. We do have a consent agenda, and again, these items are placed on the consent agenda so the trustees can, by unanimous consent, approve routine agenda items by one motion. If any item proposed does not meet with approval of all trustees or members of the audience which discuss an item, be removed and heard in regular order.
Mr. Mayor, with the exception of item 4, which I understand there was a request to have that item pulled, I would move to approve the consent agenda.
That's duly noted by the chair. Item 4 will be removed. With that being said, I do have a motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions. We do have one discussion item for the hospital authority. Discussion consideration of action to reallocate assets, change fund managers, or make changes in the statement of investment policy, guidelines, and objectives.
No action is necessary on this item.
No action.
No action necessary. We do have a second discussion item for this agenda. Discussion and consideration of approving a project agreement between the Midwest City Memorial Hospital Authority and the City of Midwest City regarding Midwest City Memorial Hospital Authority tax appropriate refunding bonds, taxable series 2018 Sooner Rose Increment District Project, herein thereafter defined as taxable series 2018 bonds.
Move to approve. I'm sorry, you wanted to ask for discussion probably.
Is there any discussion on this item?
Move to approve.
Have a motion? Have a second. Any further discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? We now move into the new business public discussion of the hospital authority. Anyone have anything to bring before the trustees? Hearing none, we are hereby adjourned.
No.
We
you
do
skipped-
have an executive session for the hospital authority.
And this is going to be discussion consideration of one entering into executive session as allowed under 25 OS Section 307 C10 to confer on matters pertaining to economic development, including the transfer of property, financing, or the creation of a proposal to entice a business to remain or to locate within the city.
Move to adjourn to executive session on this item.
Second.
And I'll need a motion to
And-
come out of recess on the council agenda.
Motion to come out of recess
Second.
And go into,
and to go into executive session.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be going in public, executive session. Thank you for attending.